Don't tell
because
me to
I
fuck
asked
off.
you in the car, do you want to go home and finish your food? You're like, no, I'm fine.
No, I said
so you
no.
can suck my fat, tiny wiener because I asked you in the car on the way home.
He's a grower, folks. He's a grower.
Yeah, I guess
Yes,
so.
it starts small and it becomes. It's like
It's like those things you put in the
larger.
water. that grow in the water.
The little dinosaur.
Yeah,
guys.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
My feet are glued to the floor. Don't wanna open up my mouth, 'cause I'm afraid of what's gonna come out. Life is but a dream. This can't be happening.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode. Oh shit. 24? 23 of the Thought Patrol podcast. My bad, I didn't have the notes up. Yeah, welcome everybody. This week I am joined by Caitlyn
What's up, guys?
and Shawn.
Hey.
I don't know what the fuck that was. But it seems like we're the main host because all the other hosts have flaked out on us.
Yeah, it's just the Kyle, Caitlyn, and Shawn show now.
Yeah, so I'm going to change the name from the Thought Patrol to the Kyle, Caitlyn, and Shawn show with friends sometimes.
Ooh.
It sounds like Mario. Dun, 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 dun.
Actually, I think that was a Mario jingle I was doing. But I think it's from 64.
It wasn't funny when you started. It wasn't funny when you kept going.
That song, man, Mario's awesome. I love the music in Mario. Okay. Yes, guys, welcome to episode 23. I'm joined by Shawn and Caitlyn, and we are here.
Hey, one more year and we get a discount on our car insurance.
What?
What the
For the
hell are you
When
podcast?
you're 21, wait, when you're 18, you can vote, right,
Okay.
and buy cigarettes. When you're 21, you can drink. When you're
Oh.
24, you get a discount on your car insurance.
Oh.
That's the
I
last thing
can't
you
wait
get to
to be
look forward
24.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. There you go. That's our factoid for the day. I actually thought, Shawn, I sat down and thought, and I know what my outro is going to be. So
Yeah?
I have an outro now. And it's
All
you
right.
guys are probably going to think it's stupid, but I'm sticking with it because I like the idea. But we'll
Hey, you
discuss
finally got
that.
one.
Yeah, we'll discuss that when we get there. So, yeah. How has your guys' week been? How's everything been with you, Shawn?
Dull and dreary. I didn't have anything to do Saturday because I had to put a shit ton load of money into something, so my entire paycheck disappeared. So no Blade Runner for me.
Accurate.
So I sat on a couch all day yesterday, which is when I should have been working out because I'm a fat ass. But instead, I watched anime all day.
Nice.
So I finished off a decent series, which was the Unlimited. I finished average shoujo series called Umi Monogatari, which is trying to do like this fairy tale thing, but it was kind of weak.
Wait.
And
I
then
think
I
I've heard
started an excellent one called Last Exile, and
This-
that one has me pumped. That's really
Wait,
good
what
so
was
far.
it?
Last Exile was
Wasn't
awesome.
that shoujo?
Umi Monogatari. There's too many shows that have the name Monogatari in it.
It's because Monogatari means the story, so.
Yeah.
But it's not related to the Monogatari series, the franchise.
Looks
No.
gay.
It kind of was.
Why
It was
did
like
you
a princess
watch
of a
this?
sea kingdom and a princess. Because I saw Monogatari and I thought it was one I missed, and I'm not a quitter, so I got 4 episodes in, and I'm like, all right, this is a separate series. Maybe it won't suck because I've
Oh,
seen
that
shoujo
ass,
series I
though.
liked before.
She's like not even wearing. I don't know
Yeah,
what that is. That's not
it's
a
like
bathing
halfway up
suit.
her ass.
Yeah.
It was
Butt
not.
cheeks
It was
sticking out.
not.
That's how they wear
Like,
it in the.
It was no Sailor Moon. Let's put it that
The
way.
Nippon. That's how they wear stuff in the
I
Nippon.
was thinking the Sea Kingdom
Oh.
because she's underground.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. Not
And before they
underground.
pull some kind of anime bullshit where at the end of the show she's
she's a person.
what's his name? The superhero.
Aquaman.
Well,
Aquaman.
Come on.
Yeah, they did this. There's another one of those series where they didn't flesh out the world at all, so only occasionally do you see other people. It's more frequently than some, but it was still almost entirely centered on this tiny cadre of characters doing whatever the fuck they're doing. There's supposed to be a sea kingdom of underwater people. You only ever see 4 of them.
Mm,
Okay.
nice.
You know, and like 2 of them are primary characters and 2 are supporting characters, and then on land there's, I don't know, 4, 5 characters, and then occasionally you'll see background people walking around, but it's not very frequent. Now, it's a small island, so I'll give them some leeway, but still, it wasn't good. It might be good for a 12-year-old.
There was a show I watched like that. It was really pretty, and it was about these people that lived underwater, and there was an island that was next to them. And the reason that people can breathe underwater was they had like a film over their body, like a really thin layer of, I don't know, like a membrane, and it let them breathe underwater. And it also prevented their like clothes from getting wet and shit, I guess. And they would come to the surface to go to school, I think. And it was just like,
that
you remember what
bullshit made more sense than what I watched.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Kim?
Yeah, I do.
It wasn't too bad, and they actually like, because they had like a whole town underwater, and it was really good.
But yet they went to school on land.
I don't know.
Yeah, this one was so bad that they could cry underwater. Like you saw tears dripping underwater.
Well, hey man, plot magic.
Yeah. Oh, and they could cast fireballs underwater too.
Dude. Like pulling a Mario.
Yeah.
So, have you been playing any games, Shawn? Anything you've been diving into?
I've been I've been more of an anime mood than a gaming mood.
Okay.
I just started the Assassin's Creed expansion for 15, even though I haven't finished 15.
Oh,
and it starts off by saying, "We suggest you have finished Chapter 7." And I'm like, yeah, I don't even know if I can do that. So,
Dude.
I don't know if I can force myself through this game. It's pretty awful. So I'm trying...
If you just stop fucking going into every nook and cranny and then writing Shawn was here, you'd be able to beat the game in like a couple hours. And then you can go back and do all that stuff afterwards just to get the story out of the way.
I will consider doing that because it's
because the
so
map
boring.
is huge, but there's nothing to do in it. So besides look at stuff, I mean it's pretty, but there's no like extracurricular activities.
I finally figured out what that game feels like. That game feels like Final Fantasy if it was made by an American guy who hasn't played Final Fantasy since he was 8.
Wow.
That's kind of what that game feels like. Like he hits some of the buttons to be like, hey, it's a Final Fantasy game. But it doesn't play like one or feel like one very much. So, but the Assassin's Creed thing is fucking derpy, dude. It is so derpy.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying it's a little bit. Yeah, I mean they had to do it inside the. It's not the Luminous engine. What's the name of this one? Is it Luminous?
I don't know.
I don't fucking remember. But the current engine that they're using, it doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed. It feels like they're kind of copying it. But what makes it extra derpy is while you're riding into town in the opening scene, you're in the car with the rest of the guys, and Noctis, and who's that guy that's like Titus level irritating?
The dude with the gun.
Prompto. Prompto, yeah. Prompto, they both just fucking jizz their shorts because they can't. They're like going to Disneyland, right? The only time you see any kind of emotion, any of this level come out of Noctis in the entire fucking game is then. Dude, he turns to an 8-year-old little boy. He's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it! We're going to the Assassins Festival!" And then the other two guys are like, "What's the big deal?" And he's like, "You've never played the games, dude!" And I'm like, "Oh my god, the Assassin's Creed games are in the mythology of 15.
It's canon.
That is fucking derpy as hell.
It's canon.
Derpy.
Yes, it is canon in the game. Those games exist in 15, and I just from that point on, I played it more like it was spoofing 15 than it was an addition.
Yeah.
And it's okay fun, but it ends up being another festival. There's mini games and shit, but there is an ongoing kind of plot-ish sort of thing. Loki pops up, and that's all I'm going to say because that's all I played so far.
Oh, okay.
But it's fun, but it's not what they should have been doing. Like if they had done like more side stories, like the story of Arden or the story of Shiva or something like that, or filled in the huge plot holes, like I would have been more about this expansion. But as it is, I can't say that I'm going to put my money into the upcoming season pass because they're doing another one. So
I haven't played any of those DLC, and I have the season pass. Oh man.
Yeah, Ignis is coming, I think, in November or something, and then they'll have done all the hey, let's mysteriously pop out and pop back in again stuff.
And you know that shit pissed me off when I saw like I think the first person it happens with is Gladiolus. When he was just gone and then he popped back and he had scars, I'm like, that shit's gonna be a DLC. I could taste it. And then what do you know? There's DLC explaining why characters disappeared for a good fucking chapter, and you're like, what happened? Where'd you go?
Yeah.
It's like you gotta pay money to find out.
What other Final Fantasies have you
God.
played so far besides 15? Did you play 10?
She got you.
I'm just gonna leave that one in. That was Mama Thought Patrol.
She got
For
you.
all you listening, she said, "Sorry, I just farted down the hall," and that's the payback that she gets. That's the payback that she gets. That's staying in the episode.
I think
I
Shawn
just spit up my
out.
ecto cooler. I'm not even lying.
Ecto cool. Oh gosh.
Oh shit.
Oh no, but what Final Fantasy games have you played outside of 15?
7 and a little bit of 13.
All right, now do you remember like somebody brought up a good point on YouTube that fucking kills me? They were like, what if you were playing 7 and then you went into the Golden Saucer and there's all those bodies and then boop, you were out of the Golden Saucer on your next mission, and then Barrett was like, man, that shit in the Golden Saucer was crazy, and then you had to pay DLC to find out what fucking happened.
Yeah,
That's the same thing that they did in this one.
pretty much.
It's so fucking, it's a huge ripoff.
Yeah. And we'll be talking about a little bit more about Final Fantasy and Square Enix's future for our main topic today.
Woo!
Woo! Oh, that was really loud. I apologize.
Yeah, I was facing downward when I
Well, it's okay, Keon, because you're always facing downwards.
suck my ass. Kyle.
Okay, so how about you, Caitlyn? How have you been this week? Anything new? Anything special you want to share with the listeners?
Not really.
Not really?
Just worked.
Just work
the whole
and
week.
school? Yeah, I feel you. Yeah. Man, Caitlyn, you need to get back on that PlayStation.
Yeah, I haven't played in a long
You need
time.
to play some games, fam. You're failing us. But that's okay, because you're going to be a part of the review section this week, so it's going to be cool.
Of what?
We're talking about Bastard.
Ooh.
Yo?
Did you read it, Shawn?
No, he hasn't. I don't
No,
think
I
so.
have
We
not
can't
had
talk
time.
about it until he reads it.
We could talk about it now.
I don't want to spoil anything, though.
We can talk about it without spoiling anything major. I mean, the biggest thing you learn is in
Caveats.
like the first chapter, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so
Well, to make up for the shortage in Caitlyn's time, I can tell you the story of my accidental being stoned this week.
yes, do that for me. Now, first of all, what was the influence? Was it
The
weed?
influence?
Was it weed?
Oh, yes. It was weed. Yes.
Yes.
So, I have never been susceptible to the influences of THC. I have a huge drug and alcohol tolerance, so it takes a lot of whatever to have an impact on me. Most of the time, I just take stuff to take the edge off of like a migraine or whatever. But I was kind of stoned once. Like there was this period of time where everybody was like, "We don't believe that you don't get stoned," and then they would give me their weed. I would smoke it. Nothing would happen. I would move on. They would have wasted their weed. That was a fun gag for me for a little while. But then one time, somebody had me hit this purple shit. And I hit it like 11 times in a one-hitter, which is like this little ceramic cigarette-looking thing.
Okay.
And it made me sick. Like,
Okay.
apparently I did too much or something. But my hands were like jittering a little bit. My eyes were jittering. And my stomach was doing flip-flops. And I was just miserable for like 3 hours or 2 hours or some shit like that. That's the closest I've ever been to having any kind of impact from it. Well, I was at work like Wednesday or Thursday, and my vape was out of juice.
Oh.
So I pulled the mouthpiece off, and my buddy had two identical vapes, one that has weed juice in it,
Ooh.
and one that has tobacco juice. And the
Okay.
liquid is the e-liquid is called juice. So I asked him if I can screw it onto one of his, and the tobacco one, obviously, and just do a hit, get some nicotine in my system, and I'd be good for the rest of the day until I could go get my own shit. Just to get a little bit, because I'm still addicted to nicotine. I just don't smoke anymore. I haven't since like 2010, and I've been slowly lowering the dosage. Anyway, long story short, cigarettes are bad, but he tells me that it's at his desk. What he doesn't tell me is that he accidentally switched them. So he's walking with the tobacco one in his pocket, and the weed one's at his desk, which I think is the tobacco one. So I go to his desk, and I take a long draw. Real big one, right? Because it's the only one I'm going to get all day.
Yeah.
So I take this deep draw, and then I'm holding it in my lungs as I walk back to my desk. Because I'm not just going to release this shit in the air, make it obvious that I'm vaping in the building or anything like that. I just need it hit, go back to my desk, blow it out underneath the desk. Well, by the time I got to the desk, it didn't really feel comfortable in my lungs anymore. All of a sudden, there's this burn happening in the top chamber of my lungs. And when I go to release it, I'm coughing. And then the back of my neck goes numb like 3 minutes later. And then the next 2 hours were a fucking nightmare.
Oh, man.
Like, my eyes were shifting focus. It was hard to focus on things. Like, volume levels were changing. I could hear somebody's ringtone all the way across the room, but I didn't hear what the guy behind me said. Like, weird fucking shit. And I'm supposed to be calling people and selling them things and sticking very, very acutely to a script and hitting specific points. And dude, I was a fucking mess. Like, it was not a good kind of high whatsoever.
Jesus.
And I wasn't until like the last half hour, because I was high for about 2.5 hours. And it wasn't until the last half hour where it finally hit like a point where I could function and I didn't feel completely fucking retarded. And the only thing I can figure is that's the part that people like enjoy, is that one part. And maybe if I had done a little less, I would have gotten to enjoy that one part or something. But since I fucking took in like a 6-hour long drag, and apparently his juice was super strong, I was fucking gone for like 2 hours, which is ridiculous. Like, I can't even. So, yeah, kid, drugs are bad. Okay?
Okay.
Like, it was fucking bananas.
Damn.
That's not something I will likely be doing again. And I realize all my pothead friends out there are all laughing at my complete pansiness when it came to this shit. But, yeah, it was a horribly awkward experience.
Well, at least we didn't get caught, right?
No, not at all.
Cool.
As a matter of fact, the only person that even knew I did it was him. And he was stoned, so he forgot like 5 minutes later that I even did it.
Stealth stoner, ninja assassin. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, don't expect a part 2 to that story. Like, even if somebody's like, "No, dude, you just do different." No, that's good. I've kind of done it twice now. Both times is not awesome. So yeah. Oh, and the worst part is when you're stoned, time slows down to a crawl. So I'm sitting there for like an hour going, "Shit, is it wearing off yet?" Because my brain was fine. My brain's sitting in the back of my head watching everything, doing this like Spock-like thing from Star Trek, taking observant notes. Okay, so it seems it messes with your vision. When I look at this slides out of focus, but then slides back again. Okay, so I'm notating that these effects are happening to my hearing. Like, I'm acutely paying attention to what's happening. And then the other half of my brain is in a bizarre panic attack. Like, all of a sudden I understood why that one cop who called up to 911 to say he thought the weed was killing him, I understood why he called 911.
Yeah.
It was whew.
It was a grand old time.
Yeah, it was a grand old time. That was my anticlimactic story. We move on. How was your week?
My week was good. I've been actually playing quite a bit of... I've had a bunch of experiences this past week. I went to go see Happy Death Day with a friend, and it was okay. I mean, I expected it to be shitty, so I had really low expectations going into it, and it turned out to just be a subpar kind of murder mystery story that was like a comedy somewhat at the same time. And I mean, it was cliche, but I liked the characters, so it was a fun watch. I could say that, at least. It was fun to watch, trying to figure out as this girl kind of uncovered who was murdering her every night. And then they had a twist or two. I'm trying not to spoil anything because it's recent. But overall, the writing was cliche. It wasn't a shitty horror movie. It was more of, like I said, a subpar murder mystery comedy. Which, it sounds weird, but it was well done. I enjoyed it for what it was. And the girl I was with, she enjoyed it as well. So, I don't want to name drop anybody. So, it was a fun time. It was definitely better than I thought it was going to be, which is saying something because I went in with horribly low expectations. So they didn't focus too much on any kind of gore or blood. A lot of it was just kind of like that pseudo suspense, kind of trying to figure out, well, who's actually killing her, and then when you find out and you don't know, and you know, and blah blah blah, stuff like that. But I definitely not something I would go and see in the theaters unless you're going with a bunch of friends. Because I think that's what makes it fun, seeing it with another person. Seeing it by yourself, I wouldn't recommend. It's not something that's too deep. But, yeah, so it was okay. Besides that, I have been playing some games. I got into Terra, which is a free MMO on the PC, which is kind of anime-inspired, I would say. Ooh, really fun. Some of the funnest combat I've experienced in an MMO. And I haven't played, what was it called? Black Desert online yet, so I've heard that has kind of the same combat where it's very action oriented, and you're kind of, it's like a third person. You're controlling the movement you're controlling the look with your mouse. You're not just clicking to move around and stuff like that. Kind of like Final Fantasy, Shawn, except there's no cast time, so it's more of like a combo based, almost like a beat 'em up, but there's RPG elements mixed in, and it's an MMO. So it's
made
fun.
by the same people that did another game like that, where they had like combo-based stuff.
Yeah, it's In Mass Entertainment. That's the publisher. I think the developer is Bluehole Incorporated, which aren't those the people that made PUBG? Bluehole? They're like a Korean developer. I think that remember. Is. Although they don't.
I think Bluehole is Korean, but I thought PUBG was made by an American dude.
I think his team is. I know he's a modder, player unknown, but I think the developing team, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. Hey, if you do know, let us know in the comments below.
We could Google it, but we lazy. So lazy.
Yeah. So
that's what we usually have Antony for, because he's got his fucking
little
iPad that he's constantly looking on. Yeah.
He's got to constantly be stimulated by porn, or he's not enjoying his life. So that's why he carries his iPad around with him.
Inverted butthole porn.
But besides that, I've been playing Evil Within 2. That's good.
Please tell me it's better than the first game.
Now, I'd say it's different, but there's ways that can be considered a step forward or a step back, because now it's more of a pseudo open world kind of feel, where you got a big map. Because now you're going, well, the first Evil Within, the kind of story was, there's this company called Mobius. They developed this system called STEM, and what it is it's a collection of consciousness. So like everyone gets connected to this one person's or a core's consciousness, and then they're trying to develop it to a point where they can have everyone connected to STEM, kind of like the Matrix. It really is a lot like the Matrix when you think about it. And what happens in the first game is the person that they use is he's kind of a psychopath, so his world, he still has control over it, even though it's just his brain, and he's in his world. And from the beginning of the game, you find out, from the first game, spoilers, although it's old, that you find out that you've been connected to STEM almost the entire game, and you're trying to basically stabilize this world by removing him from the collective consciousness. Then eventually you find out that he puts himself in this like patient you've been kind of watching, and then he's walking the world kind of, so he's still out there. And I haven't finished the game yet, so I think he might be playing a factor in this game as well. Right now I haven't seen any hint of him, because there's a new big bad, which is this I think his name is Stefano, I think.
Stefano, like PewDiePie Stefano?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's his name. Something with an S. I want to say Sebastian, but that's the main character. And he's like a photographer, and he's got some really cool battles that I've seen so far. But yeah, it's more of a take on a somewhat open world, because they've remade STEM. I don't want to spoil anything. They have a new core for STEM, and this core you're trying to find... I'm trying not to spoil anything. You're trying to find this new core, and you're going back into STEM. But this time you're doing it consciously. You know you're in STEM. And same thing happens. It kind of starts to break down, and you're trying to repair the STEM, because this is like their STEM 2.0. And what they plan to do is if they get enough people connected to this stem, eventually this stem will go like wireless and connect everyone to stem. And then everyone will be connected to stem, and they build this little town called Union, which is kind of like the perfect American suburb where everyone can live and be happy together and stuff like that. I don't know their goal yet to doing something like this. It might be a way, because they are saying something like, if one person's happy, everyone's happy. So it might be a way to control the populace, some type of subliminal messaging. But if everyone's trapped in the stem, what's the point of controlling everybody? I don't know. Unless they plan on taking everyone out of STEM at one point and letting everyone run around brainwash the actual world. I have no clue what the plot is with Mobius yet. But definitely a fun game. Much more fun. The horror is still there. They have sequences of it, but a lot of the game, the time that you're spending is moving around this new area. You could play how you want still. You could go guns blazing or stealth. Although on a harder difficulty, I recommend stealth because you do not have like shit for ammo and things die, so take forever to their fucking bullet sponges like you're playing Destiny or something. So it's better to be stealth because you get that insta kill unless it's a higher tier enemy. But definitely enjoying the game a lot. When the horror does come into play, it's very interesting. It definitely has a Silent Hill-esque feel to it. It kind of feels like a mix of Silent Hill, Last of Us, and a little bit of Resident Evil with the way the enemies look. But a very fun game. I'd say you do need to play the first one to kind of understand what's going on in the second. So you could always watch like a recap video if you do have interest in the second game. But I recommend it.
First one's on the cheap anyway. You can get the first one cheap.
The problem with the first one
was the plot was garbage. The gameplay was fun. The first game was fun as fuck to play. But when you're trying to do the plot, considering the meat of the plot, you get all the surrounding details. But the actual core of the plot you don't get until you buy the expansion. Now they both come together, so that's not such a big deal. But you still don't know anything until you've beat vanilla Evil Within, and you're sitting there going, that was retarded. But the fuck? And then you play the expansion, you're like, oh, that's pretty good, but too late, fuckers, because you fucked up.
Yeah, it definitely it keeps you in the dark for a lot of the first game, but the second game, that you know from the get-go that you're going into STEM, that you understand that what happens from now on is part of this collective conscious, and on top of that, I'd say the story is a lot more straightforward because Sebastian himself knows kind of what's going on, where in the first game you didn't really have a clue. So they're kind of keeping the person playing him in the same regard. Although I'm not saying that's technically a good idea because you're just confused the entire game. But there's been improvements. It looks very good. Now this is coming on a PC. I don't know what it looks like on the PlayStation or how it runs. Because the problem I had with the first game is I owned it on the PlayStation. It ran like garbage. So I couldn't ever beat it. So I just watched the story recap video and then moved on to the second one just to get it out of the way. But it runs very well on the PC. I haven't had any dips. There is some tearing, but I think that's because I keep VSync off. I haven't played with it on, so I don't know if it would. Usually it solves the problem, but I haven't tried it because sometimes VSync fucks with your aiming on a mouse. But I am enjoying it quite a bit. It's a fun game. I think that's it. I haven't played Shadow of War, mostly because I don't want to. I didn't play the first one. I've heard the issue with the grind that they have in this one, although I don't know how true that is. I just hearing a lot of people report on it, saying that it's like unbearable to get the true ending of the game to kind of promote their loot box system. Girl. So I don't know. I'm just waiting for Mario at this point because there's not really much else going on. I mean, we still have Battlefront coming up, but then I've heard the drama about their loot boxes too. So I don't know. I don't like the loot box stuff, especially when you can see that there's a definite. It's not just cosmetic like it is in Overwatch or something, where there's actual benefits you get from spending money. And although EA has come back and said that, technically all the high-end stuff can be acquired endgame and other things like that, I just don't know. From the beta, what I played, it didn't feel like it'd be too big of a deal, especially with a sandbox shooter, where if you're not paying attention, you can still die, so there's still a somewhat need for skill. only, yeah, somewhat need for skill. I don't know, because it's just, there's so much shit going on. You have to be more aware of your surroundings. It doesn't really matter how good you are, but there are some pretty crazy ass cards. Like there's one card, Shawn, that I think what it does is it, when Boba Fett is using his jetpack and one of his abilities, it makes him invincible at rank 5. So he can't take any damage while he's using one of his abilities. Like there's some things that are like that strong, and some of them can be acquired through loot boxes. So the more money you spend, there's a higher chance that you can get a card that'll make your gameplay experience easier than someone else that you're fighting against. So
I don't know, man. I still I played the demo thing, and it was fun, and it was a little bit visually, it was just as good as the original, and it was the same kind of fun, but the level didn't feel any bigger. I didn't feel like there was that much more depth to it. There was, obviously, when you don't work in a unit, it's much harder. You need to communicate with your other guys and so on, and I like that. But I still feel like it'd be more interesting if they had longer battles or something. It just seems, I don't know if it doesn't feel like a $60 experience to me, and on top of which you're still going to need a season pass to get all the content and stuff. I just don't.
Well, no, this one doesn't have anything like that. There's no.
If you're going to do an online only game, and I don't buy a lot of those, if I'll buy a game that has single player support, solo campaign support, which is what interests me in this game, is a single player campaign. But the online component, I don't know how long I would stay interested in that. How many maps they're going to have, what kind of level variety they're going to have. Is there going to be things that can occur during a match that can completely change how the level plays, or secret paths you can unlock, or I don't know. It just seems pretty standard fare to me. I liked it, and I kind of want to get it, but only because you guys will be getting it too. I don't if it was just me and I was like, yeah, I want to play a good Star Wars game, this is not what I would pick up.
Well, yeah, we also have the RPG around the corner that they're developing now for Star Wars 2. So once we see what that is. And then on top of that, the DLC is free. All the DLC for this game. Their plan is that they're going to be, I don't know how much they're going to be releasing DLC-wise, but they've said already, EA has stated there's going to be no season pass. You don't have to pay for any additional content. But so you could see why they're kind of subsidizing what that is. The fact that they're giving us all this free maps and other content that they have to sit there and create. They're kind of subsidizing that with this loot box system. And again, I don't hate loot boxes. I don't care that, or I don't think that it should be illegal because it's considered gambling or anything like that. I do think that it is unfair if it provides an advantage to you in a game that other people are playing. So say like Battlefront, or even the thing with Shadow of War, where they have this multiplayer mode and you could be playing against a dude that's dropped $100 into the loot box system and has a much better army than you do, and you're already at a disadvantage just because you didn't want to spend more money. That kind of rubs me the wrong way, but I understand why companies are trying to find ways to make money after an initial sale, because games are becoming more expensive to create, and I understand that. But it's just, you can do, look at Overwatch. Overwatch has made so much money because Blizzard decided to do it correctly and keep it to a way where it's in a game where you cannot have an advantage based on spending more money. Or even PUBG. Look at PUBG. PUBG is the same way. They made a lot of money off of their loot box system, on top of the fact that they sell a fuckload of copies. But because it's just cosmetic stuff. And you see these, there's these mini skirts you can get for the female characters, and they run $200 to $400, depending on the skirt, on the Steam store, which is fucking insane. At least with Steam, the cool thing about Steam is stuff that you can acquire, like their CSGO and PUBG, can be sold for actual money. So say if you open up a loot box and you get a skirt and you sell it on the store, you have $400 of Steam credit in your account that can be spent on other games, which is really cool. You just gotta sell it. The same thing goes for CSGO. You get a really good knife. You got a $300 Marble Fade, Karambit, whatever the fuck you got, and someone buys that from you. You have $300 in your account that you could then proceed to go buy games or hold for games in the future. And you have just a credit on your account, which is really cool. That's not something we see on the console, but I think that's interesting, to say the least. But
I don't have a problem with loot boxes as long as, again, it's not like you can only get it through a loot box, or because, I mean, you bought the game, you should get everything that's available in the game. You shouldn't have to buy loot boxes for it.
yeah, we share the same sentiment to a point. Ooh, okay. That was a long ass. I have the burps. That was a long ass intro. Huh. So yeah, with that out of the way, I think that's everything that happened this week, at least to me. Really enjoying Terra for a free MMO. I've already put about 8 hours into it. It's fun. Evil Within is fun, and we're waiting for Mario. I'm excited as hell for Mario. Mario's gonna be cool, especially on the Switch. Take it to school, kind of chill out. It's gonna be dope. Also, there's the Fire Emblem game coming out to Switch as well, and it's just like the Dynasty Warrior Styles game. I want to see how. I'm not gonna buy that straight up. I'm gonna wait to see reviews. I dropped my pen. Sorry, Caitlyn. My pen. All right. Sorry about that. So, with that,
Poor pen.
yeah.
Please put your phone on vibrate.
Oh no.
Shame on you.
What a
Caitlin's
terrible person.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. So, let's move on to our housekeeping. So,
Housekeeping?
yes, we have a Discord. If you are tuning in and you want to come and hang out with the community or the hosts or whatever, chill out with us. Drop some dank memes in the Discord. There is a link in the description below. If you're on YouTube, it's not on Audioboom. But yeah, if you just come over to the YouTube channel, you'll find that. If you guys hear anything in this podcast that you want to discuss with us about, you can leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. If you do like our content, feel free to subscribe either on the podcasting service you are listening to, or you could come over to YouTube, our home base, where we have Let's Plays. We have other content available to you guys that is only available on YouTube. We also have a Twitter, which is... what is the Twitter again? I think it's Thought Patrol PD. Something like that.
That's what it is.
It will be in the
Somebody
description.
explain to me what the PD stands for.
I don't know. Podcast.
Are you
Pod.
dumb?
Wouldn't that be PC then?
Are you dumb?
No, PC stands for political correctness. And we don't
Got
talk
it.
about this on this
PTC
show.
or something?
If you guys really, really love us and you want to flatulate us a bit, drop an iTunes review. It will be read on the podcast, no matter what it says. We're going to stick to that. So just be sincere. That's all we asked for. Some legitimate feedback would be appreciated. So,
Emphasis on sin. Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So, with the housekeeping done, we have kicked Consuela out of the building. We're going to move on to our Germany or Florida segment. And this week, for our article, we have Man Bites Neighbor's Ear Off Over a Cigarette. So, Shawn, we're going to do our curtain call. So, we're going to have Caitlyn as the anchor.
That's right.
Keeping that rep going. I had Caitlyn listen to last week's episode.
Yeah. What'd you think, Caitlyn?
She's ashamed.
I was ashamed of you both.
Listen,
I don't talk like that. All right.
Well,
I never said that. I stuck up for you. You need to listen to
you
that shit
just
again.
laughed.
I heard you
Exactly.
laughing, Shawn.
There was some laughing happening. I'm not going to lie about the laughing, but I also stuck up for you.
I appreciate it.
Oh man, that was good. That stroke of genius just came upon me, and I'm like, this
It
is
wasn't that
exactly what.
genius.
Listen,
It was actually pretty stupid. Sorry, Kyle.
so you'll be the anchor. What happened?
I want that mac and cheese.
You'll be the anchor. I'll be the reporter.
Did you just say cheese?
No,
We went out to dinner, and Kyle didn't let me finish my dinner because
I
he
asked
wanted
you.
our ass to
No,
come.
listen.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Don't tell me
because
to
I
fuck
asked
off.
you in the car, do you want to go home and finish your food? You're like, no, I'm fine.
No, I said
So you
no.
can suck my fat, tiny wiener because I asked you in the car on the way home.
He's a grower, folks. He's a grower.
Yeah, I guess
Yes,
so.
it starts small and it becomes. It's like
It's like those things you
Slightly
put in the water. that grow in the water.
little dinosaur
Yeah,
guys.
that's what it is.
Yeah, and I'm a. What's that one with the long neck? What's that
A giraffe.
dinosaur called? A giraffe?
Oh, a dinosaur?
Yeah, there's a dinosaur with a long neck, the herbivore.
Oh, you know it's a herbivore, though.
Yeah, because he needs a long neck to eat leaves off the trees, like giraffes. Your favorite animal, right, Caitlyn?
No.
No? You don't like giraffes? What's wrong with giraffes?
Them. They're terrifying.
What? Really?
Giraffes are wonderful.
I think they look more doofy than anything else.
No, they're terrifying. Don't call them doofy.
I think it's creepy that their tongues are like 10 feet long.
Exactly.
And they're black. It's kind of creepy.
Kyle is a tongue racist.
Yes, I am. They have to be black. So the only other one is Balrog, right, Shawn? So hashtag spoiler.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to do that? Do you think?
Sure.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to our Germany or Florida segment with our breaking news. You count.
Yeah. Dude.
Oh, it's back again, motherfucker.
Bitch, you thought I was gone.
I did think you were gone.
Anyways, and we're back again for another riveting evening where we report on the heroism in everyday life here at Channel 69 News. Today we are interviewing world famous boxer, bodyguard, and former terrorist. How do you say that? Balrog, who once again is finding himself in hot water. Once again. That's great writing. Here with more is our sports and organized terrorism reporter, Kyle.
That's right, Caitlyn. Balrog has found himself back at it again. After a career as a heavyweight champ, his ultra-violent tendencies had him kicked from boxing after killing an opponent. He worked as a bodyguard to mafiosos for a bit after, but ultimately found himself in jail for killing 2 men in illegal street fights. After serving his time, Balrog was recruited by the terrorist Shadaloo. What is that? Shadaloo?
Shadaloo Crime Syndicate.
Shadaloo Crime Syndicate. And we heard nothing from Balrog and his activities until 2 years later, where he popped up as a finalist in the Street Fighter World Tournament. He has since spent his days under the radar, until now. So let's jump into it. Mr. Balrog, I understand you're being accused of biting a man's ear off. Is this true?
So, what happened was, this asshole neighbor of mine, he came over without asking to my kick-ass barbecue. As you can plainly see, I have many beautiful young ladies here with which I will obviously be having relations with later tonight. Now, I mean, who wouldn't fuck Balrog? Am I right? Of course I am. I am beautiful. They just don't know it is sexy time yet, but they will.
He sounds like the guy from South Park. What's his name?
South Park?
Yeah, the fat kid with the hoodie. No.
The fat?
The guy.
Cartman?
Cartman. He sounds like Cartman.
You sound like Cartman.
Yeah.
Kaylin, make your noise.
Oh. They'll just come out like quickly, you know?
And this neighbor was seriously messing with me, sweating up my game. He's all talking to people and making them laugh and sit. I had to do something. The moment I saw him step a polite distance away and light up a cigarette, I rolled up and bit his damn ear off. Bitch won't start my damn barbecues again with no damn invitation again and fuck up my sexy time.
So you admit this was an unprovoked attack?
What you mean unprovoked? His bitch ass was taking my lady time and he's smoking his ass to high heaven in a non-smoking yard. I'm an athlete. This body is a temple. No motherfucker's gonna be lighting up in my beautiful Balrog lungs. I'll bite his ear off and both yours too. Get the hell off my property, unprovoked my ass.
So as you can clearly see, Mr. Balrog is clearly of a strong opinion that he was in the right to protect his lady time in his lungs while barbecuing. I can't do the lisp. Outside, damn it.
Yeah, you're good with lists, Shawn.
Yes, he is. I guess we will wait to see the outcome of the reported lawsuit. Until next time, back to you, Caitlyn.
Well, that was a lispy and revolting time with a disgraced human being and a former boxer. Hopefully he doesn't snap on anyone else's ear next time he is near a smoker. Tune in next time when Kyle shaves a giraffe while wearing nothing but bubble tape. Until then, this is Channel 69 News. Dude.
Bubble tape. I'd watch that. Shit, I think I saw that on Pornhub at one point.
Okay, too much. Let's continue.
Caitlyn. TMI. Yeah.
Giraffe porn.
So that was our Germany or Florida segment. We
Man,
will come
can you
back.
imagine giraffes having sex?
No,
Giraffes having
no.
sex?
They must like wrap their necks around each other.
Let's find out.
No.
Like
Giraffes
Avatar tail sex.
having
No, ew.
sex.
No.
Now listen, here I found it. It's on YouTube. Oh shit, I have to mute
Oh
this.
God.
No.
All right, you guys didn't hear any of that. Time out. All right, you see this guy? It is.
Why is this 4 minutes long?
I gotta find out when it starts. Let me scrub through this video.
Oh, the zoom. The zoom. Oh, jeez.
He's approaching his. Oh god, what? There's nothing going on in this entire video. This man uploaded a 4-minute video.
Wait, there we go.
Oh, there we go. It starts at the last minute. Here we go. Here we go.
Oh! Jeez. It's like Olympics. Giraffe sex Olympics.
What is he doing? He zoomed in on the wrong part.
What are you doing, buddy?
Let us see. What are you doing? Oh
His-
shit! That dude's got the
his
dick the size of my
Penis
forearm.
is out.
Look at the other one looking at it like, that's what you're doing. That was quite a
Wait.
an interesting
that was-
experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was not. Alright, anyways.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you might forget that this is a podcast.
Anyways.
We need to stream so we could do all that shit live. That'd be fun. I need to get the fucking camera working.
I'm gonna take
I
a
don't know
shit.
why it doesn't work. It never fails, Caitlyn. Every time you're on the podcast, I gotta take a shit. We're gonna have Caitlyn's poo break is gonna be one of the segments, and then we'll talk crap about you while you're in the bathroom.
Get it? Crap?
Hey,
That was a good one.
That was almost as good as Antony's nutty joke. Those
No,
were greater
that was-
times.
no, that
I
was a
listened back to
legend.
that episode like yesterday.
Throwback to when people
The whole
actually. gave a
panty
shit.
thing. That shit was hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to our box office tops. We have the top 5 movies of the last week. We're going to start at number 1 is Happy Death Day. We were talking about that a bit earlier. It made $26 million in its first week with only a budget of $4.8 million. Damn.
Damn.
You know, I mean, I guess when I look back at it, there really wasn't a lot going on. It was just, well, it was,
4.8.
there wasn't much special effects, so probably all that went to the actors.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
there were in that movie. There was this like Korean girl that was part of her. I'm assuming she's Korean because she was listening to K-pop, but she was a
Wow,
part.
that's very racist of you, Kyle.
Well, she was Asian. She was listening to K-pop. I mean, I know it's a stereotype, but she was sitting. She was in the same sorority as the girl, the main character, and she was so adorable. She's just adorable. You dropped your earphone. She's my favorite character, although we didn't see her talk at all.
I have to poop.
God damn it!
Really bad.
Then go poop.
It's coming out.
Then go.
Ah!
This is new levels of
like-
unprofessionalism.
Say that Pokemon. Diglett.
Diglett, you're digletting right now.
Yes.
Have you ever had a Doug trio? Those are the ones where you lose the battle. Yeah, that's why you
Okay,
never.
you can continue.
That's why you never fart while you're holding a poop because that's not good. So that was number 1. At number 2, we have Blade Runner 2049, which has only made a $15 million in the last week. This is its second week. It has grossed $60 million in total, and it has a budget of $150 million. So it's not looking like it's going to make the budget. But even the first one, I don't know how well it did in theaters, but I know it was more of a cult classic that everyone kind of got onto it afterwards.
It didn't clean up when it first came out, but it's been since hailed as one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot that Blade Runner, this one is one of the best sequels of all time. So, so definitely, what am I going to say? But then again, it just doesn't seem like a lot of people are going to the movies. We only have at the top.
Cyberpunk is an acquired taste.
Yeah,
You know, it's not everybody's not into Cyberpunk's probably my favorite genre, but not everybody's into it, unfortunately, which is why we get so few movies in that vein.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel you because it's also like hella sci-fi. Like it just feels super sci-fi, and the trailers I think did a good job of portraying, like what looked like a good movie, and I think it got a decent amount of coverage when it came to ads. So I just don't know. It just doesn't seem like a lot of people are going to the theaters now. At number 3, we have The Foreigner, which was That's also a remake, right? Or like a reboot. I know it has Jackie Chan in it, but The Foreigner was
That I want to see.
I think I saw the original. I don't remember. I don't know if it has any ties to the previous movies, but that made 12 million. It's sitting, or this is its first week. So oh my god, and its budget is 35 million. At number 4, we still have It. Made 6 million this week, sitting at 314 million, with a budget of 35 million, and it is on its 6th week. And at number 5, we have The Mountain Between Us, which is that that's not that Idris Elba movie, right? Is that how you say his name?
Idris
Elba. Whatever. That dude.
Sounds like a sex joke.
Or yeah, something you'd find on when you look up what's that website called? And they have like different definitions for everything. Urban Dictionary. Something you'd look up on Urban Dictionary, and it's like when you position a girl on a headstand and then have her spinning as she squirts, and then you like skeet into her mouth or something like that, right?
This out of the imagination of Kyle, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know.
Yeah, that's the Idris Elba.
Spinning helicopter skate stand.
Yeah, I'll put that in Urban Dictionary right after this. Once we finish this podcast, that'll be my contribution to the next generation. So yeah, number 5, we had The Mountain Between Us sitting at 5.6 million. It has grossed 20 million on its 2nd week with a budget of 35 million. So that's our top 5, which is, I'd say, again, not too strong of a week, but Happy Death Day was it was okay. But I really wish Blade Runner would have done a bit better. But hey, we'll see what happens. I'm sure they'll make their money back one way or another. And okay, so I'm trying to stall for time because Caitlyn's still taking the shit. Let's okay. We got to talk crap about her. She never speaks into the microphone, and it really pisses me off, Shawn. And I really wish she would do that more often. Oh God! She's back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How'd the poop go? Oh no, that's never good. I don't think anyone will be able to hear that, what you said, unless they put on 2 headphones. So if you go back 10 seconds, put on 2 headphones, you might hear what Caitlyn just said. Ooh.
Aww.
You don't want to. It sounds like, oh. All right, so we're back just in time for the answer to Germany or Florida. What do you think, Caitlyn? Where do you think that article came from? Try not to give me any.
An ear?
Biting off an ear for a pizza. Hey, look, Jonathan's playing Counter-Strike.
Cigarette.
Go fuck yourself.
Whoa.
Our other host, keeping it true. He's not really even a host at this point. He's like a special guest. Comes on once in a blue
He's a
moon.
guest host, like Cry is every now and then when he pops up on Cutie Pie. Cutie Pie. Did I just say Cutie Pie? Fuck.
Yeah, you did say Cutie Pie.
Florida? That sounds like something.
Isn't that an actual channel though? Isn't like that the channel?
That's his girlfriend.
His girlfriend's channel. Yeah.
Can I say Florida? Because it sounds like something I would do.
Okay, say Florida. 'Cause sounds like something Cam would do. What about you, Shawn? What do you think?
I'm going for Florida.
It was indeed Florida this time.
Yay.
I could not stump you,
Bitch.
So yeah, it did come out of Florida, and that man was arrested. And well, it's also the same state where we had someone eat someone else's face.
There's a movie from
Yeah.
There is-
Salts.
There is-
Love Kingsman.
No, well, there is a movie for My Little Pony, but this was the weekly. I'm looking at the weekend charts, and My Little Pony has dropped to number 9.
Good.
So
I didn't even know.
My Little Pony has a movie.
there is a My Little Pony
Why
movie
is there no budget listed? They're too ashamed.
for My Little
They're
Pony.
too ashamed
I
of
don't
the
know.
money they put into it.
I don't know. Sometimes the site doesn't have the budgets. Yeah. When me and you have to unmute your mic, Caitlyn. God fucking damn it! It never fails.
That's okay. I didn't say anything important.
God damn it!
That's okay.
There was a My Little Pony movie. And it was funny because me and Kayla were walking up to the front. Oh shit! I did say I was gonna drop her name. Whatever. You don't know who it is. Whoops. That's fine.
Oh, nice.
It's not that big. How many Kaylas exist in this world?
I know, like 4.
A billion zillion. So, we saw it like on the fucking marquee, on the top because we went to Regal, Caitlyn. So it was like on the top two. It said My Little Pony, and I'm like, oh, okay, then that's interesting.
That's stupid.
Yeah, so that's the movies. But yeah, that was from the week. So it went from number 4 in the week to number 9 in the weekend. So
Damn.
yeah. So moving forward, that was the answer. It was in fact Florida. Florida keeping it true to the legacy of the Florida man, doing absolutely fucking absurd stuff. Because I don't know why it all correlates down here. Probably because we have so many different people that live in Florida, especially South Florida. People from all over the place in South Florida.
Like, it's fucking insane.
Yeah, it is crazy. So now we're going to move on to our review corner. We do have one this week. We're going to talk a little bit about a webcomic called Bastard. I did talk about this not too extensively, but just a little bit, maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. On I think it was like episode 19, episode 20, something like that. And so, Caitlyn, I want you to start. What did you like about Bastard that made it where you practically now it was initially forced, but I enjoyed it enough to read it in like 2 days afterwards or 3 days, something like that. So, what did you like about Bastard? Into the mic.
Well, should we give like a synopsis of it?
Yeah, if you want to give the synopsis, you can. I'm gonna move that closer to you.
So basically, it's about like this kid, and his father is a serial killer. Which isn't spoiling anything.
Yeah,
but,
you find that on the first chapter.
Like few chapters, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically like how he deals with it, I guess. And it's so good. It has such good character development. The story is very well written. If they made it into a movie, I'd be all over it.
Yo, me too. I'd like to see something, even if it only gets like some type of.
You find Caitlyn humping the movie screen while you're trying to watch the movie.
Yes.
Yes, girl.
So I also enjoyed it quite a bit, enough to finish it in a couple days.
I finished it in one night. It has like 92 chapters, and I started at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I finished it.
That must have been a fucking roller coaster.
A roller coaster. Tell me
of
about
emotions,
it.
because those last
coaster.
the last 10 chapters, I was at lunch, and my coworker next to me is like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?" And I'm like losing my shit reading this webcomic. Again, if you guys want to see what we're talking about, we're not going to spoil anything heavy. All you got to do.
Link will be in the description.
I don't know if I can.
It's like an app.
Yeah,
it's
an
called
app.
Webtoon, and you just download the app, and it's
the most popular one on there.
Yeah, it's for free.
Yeah, it's all free.
It's just absolutely wonderful. It has romance. It has
really heavy hitting romance.
Yeah, heavy hitting romance. It has
in the middle of a serial killer story.
Yeah.
Well, the character, the girl character, has like something to do with it.
Yeah,
she's involved. She gets involved.
Try not. That sounds like something from Boku no Hero. So, I agree with Caitlyn. There is a lot of really good character development as you kind of
like before this, I didn't even know what character development was.
A little bit. Well,
but then I read it and I was like, shit, this is character development.
Need to watch more stuff.
Kind of suck my ass.
But it is nice to see this.
It's called a hyperbole.
This main character's journey as he kind of deals with this morality struggle of kind of understanding that he has grown up with death his entire life. He's been helping his father for the past, 14, 13
For a long time, though.
A long time. And so he's accustomed, he's desensitized to death. He understands that, or he doesn't necessarily understand that death is bad because he's grown up around it his whole life because his father has been enlisting the help of his son because he looks like a single parent. You got a kid. It's really easy to draw in victims, and this dude only kills women that fit a certain criteria. I don't want to get too much into that. So, but as he kind of struggles because he's weak and kind of learning that he needs to face this demon that exists in his life, and kind of him building up to that and making friends. Oh man. That made me sad. That made me sad when I talked about that because it's something that happens. But that kind of, it gets to a point where he's like, am I allowed to live this life? Should I be able to be happy because of what I've been doing my whole life, even though it's been something that's been forced upon him by his father? And I think they did a really good job of both showing that struggle showing the fact that he's maturing, and also showing just the way they wrote the father as a character.
Amazing.
You were always afraid when he was around. It was because you never knew if someone might have been in trouble or danger, or every time he was around and something happened, you're in that kind of state where you're like, oh shit, you better not kill someone. You better not kill someone.
Right.
And he feels like this ultimate evil. And it's interesting because they also turn it back. They flip it back on its end, on its side near the end, and you learn things. So it's not like he's a very static character the entire time. He has some growth in his own way.
Yeah, even the bad guy.
Yeah, but they did a good job of writing him as kind of this ultimately very creepy and very strong character, to a point where you every time he's on screen and there's something bad going on, you feel that sense of like worry or that sense of danger just reading the thing. And I like the way they drew everything too. I think they did a good job portraying action in the panels.
The art
was really good.
God, whoever drew it, props. Because just the different like facial expressions from the father.
They know how to make that
like,
motherfucker
it's
look
creepy. And I read it 4 a.m. and I was shitting my pants. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Very good. I give it like 1 billion thumbs up.
1 billion thumbs up.
Like
Damn.
every
That's
thumbs
a lot
in the
of
world,
thumbs.
those are going to be.
That's a lot of thumbs.
Yeah, every single thumb that lives right now, it's thumbs
So
up.
that's like 15 billion thumbs.
Yeah.
Caitlyn's going ham with the thumbs, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That's enough. That's a lot of thumbs.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys want to partake in it, it's a quick read. Again, you can finish it in a couple days.
Highly recommended.
Either you could search it up on your own. Again, it's the Webtoon. It's the Line webcomic app. It's on Android and iOS, and you just search up Bastard. It's one word. Or you could join the Discord.
It's over too. So
yeah,
you
it's
can
done.
Finish it.
So, and I think it finished it. I think it finished
recent.
somewhat.
It was this year.
No, I'm saying I think it finished somewhat.
Strong.
Yeah, it felt like a good ending.
It wasn't like those shitty endings where you're like, that could have gone. It leaves like a bad taste in your mouth. No.
It's not
Very
something that you
it's
think
satisfying.
could be. Yeah, it's not something that you think that they could come back to and expand. It's kind of like the story has
You
been.
can kind of expand on it.
I don't know.
I would like to see an expansion.
I guess you're right somewhat. You can see maybe an aftermath of everything that happens because there is room for.
Like it kind of
maybe-
does jump in the future, but I feel like you can expand upon that jump and then jump even more into the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess, but then it wouldn't have the same feeling.
Well, it's just my opinion.
Okay, it's just my opinion.
Well, he's an accessory to murder like a bajillion times, so.
Yeah. But it was good. Very, very fun to read. Very exhilarating. There's plenty of moments where I'm just sitting there like tapping my feet at the table. Like,
I'm like,
please,
yeah.
I hope this doesn't happen. Or, holy shit, this did happen. What the fuck?
Yeah, like sometimes I was just in awe. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just so good. It's one of the best things I've ever read.
Yeah.
I read Crime and Punishment, and that's like my favorite book ever. But this is like a close second.
A close second.
I mean, that's like classic literature, and Bastard is like a close second.
All right. So out of a 10, what are we giving this?
10.
No
doubt.
No thought. I'm trying to think.
I can't critique it. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
That's what I'm trying to think. Is if I found any.
Anything-
There were some plot.
Well, it's been a while
things that
since I read
happened
it.
with the father that I kind of felt like were too convenient.
Oh, yeah. There are some parts of the story
There are some parts
where
where
it's
it's-
unrealistic, and it's kind of it is very convenient, but it's just to move the plot around.
Yeah,
I mean,
understand
it doesn't
that.
happen
It happens,
all the
it happens
time.
a bit.
It does happen a lot, though. I see where you're. Yeah, now that
It
I'm
doesn't
thinking.
happen all the time.
Yeah.
But it does
Yeah.
happen a lot.
Yeah, I
And
see where you're coming from.
Yeah, so that's the only notch that I could kind of take off. It does.
It's a bit too.
When it does
convenient.
happen, it's always pushing the story along, so that's good. That because the story's
Yeah, it doesn't
moving.
happen for no reason.
But if you think about it, you're like, well, how did this happen? And it kind of feels like somewhat of a plot
I think
hole.
the way they did that, it kind of adds to his character and the creep factor.
Well, yeah, I think it does
'Cause-
too. But it kind of it just feels like
feels
it's
like-
too much of a coincidence.
feels like he's a god.
But then again, you're also getting this added bonus that you're like, well, this dude's like really smart and is always like 6 steps ahead.
Yeah,
in
I
this
feel like
chess
it adds
game.
to his character.
Yeah,
You could
I can see
argue
where you
that,
could pull
yeah.
that it makes a lot of sense because you can tell, like, oh, he's just basically not. He's just smart enough to the point where he's always like, because it gets to a point where it is a chess game between the son and the father. As things start to ramp up, they're both fighting this mental war with each other as he's trying to kind of figure out what he's going to do to get out of the situation. So, but the father always kind of seems like he's just one too many steps ahead. That's the only thing I'd knock. But then again, like we said, it does feel like it adds to the character as well. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Caitlyn's a 10 out of 10.
I'm a 10 out of 10.
It was really good.
It's hard for me to like critique
something?
certain stories because I know like how I've been a writer for a while. I know like how much goes into writing a story and how hard it is to like end it with no plot holes or anything. So I appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into it.
Yeah.
So
Even if a reliable or an unreliable narrator?
For this story,
narrator?
Yeah.
I think the main character can be considered one because most of it comes from his perspective.
What do you mean by like unreliable?
An unreliable narrator, like what the story they're telling you isn't necessarily what happened.
No, I feel like it's pretty reliable.
Yeah, no, I'd say that what you get is pretty much what's going on.
Yeah.
They do have somewhat of a spin later on where it kind of makes you think, has it been that way? But you're not entirely sure. I'm not going to give the answer to that.
Oh.
But there are moments
then I would definitely say it's unreliable then.
But it's not that way the entire time, though.
No, but there are
shifts
it's not
in focus.
Reliable completely.
Like there are books where things are told from a certain perspective, and sometimes the narrator will even tell you some of this is a lie, some of it's the truth.
Yeah.
And then they tell you the story, so you never know what parts of the story are true or what aren't, which adds a layer of complexity to it. There's an entire season of Monogatari it's got several unreliable narrators. There's very few stories that are reliable narration, which is why there's continuity gaps between pieces that's intentional. So you're never quite sure exactly how things have played out or what reality is, and you kind of have to determine that for yourself.
Again, it flops because I'd say for the most part of the story, you have a decent understanding what's going on, and they're not purposely leaving anything out, I'd say. But near the end, there's kind of like a thing where like you feel that has this been, but it doesn't present itself till the end. So maybe the whole time he was unreliable as a narrator.
But it's not very
evident. And then they just
evident.
reveal it to you at the end. It's not something that's very evident. But you do kind of get kind of thrown on your ass, and you kind of have to go back and think near the end, like, did this all really happen, or is there something else going on with this story?
Or is he just a crazy person?
Yeah. So, a little bit of both. I'd say for the most part, they do a good job of making you feel like he is reliable, and they kind of flip it near the end. So,
it's like, you saw it.
Yeah. Again, that was that. Bastard. It's a webcomic, and you could get it on iOS or Android for free. It's a decent read, 91 chapters.
And there's a lot of good stuff on that app, too.
Yeah, they have a lot. It's cool because they have
a lot of shoujo,
stuff,
if you know what I mean.
They have a lot of stuff that's not just...
They have Tower of God on there. They had...
Don't they have a...
That boxing one. What's the name of that
boxing one?
The girl with the long blonde hair.
Oh, the Korean one.
Yeah, what's the name of that one?
Fuck, what is that?
Girl the Wild.
Girls the Wild? Yes, Girls of the Wild.
No, it's Girl the Wild.
Oh, okay. Well,
bitch, Korean.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that one was good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff on there. No.
Oh, you bitch.
But I know it's good.
Well, now you got to read that for me.
Fuck off. Let's
no,
continue.
it's good, though. Like, the main character is really
cool. I know,
cool.
but it's too long.
Fuck off.
Bastard was only like 90... Let's see how long that is now. Sorry.
Now, I could understand if I told you to read The God of High School, which is like 500-something chapters. That's long. But I don't think that one's too long. I think it's over. Okay. Well, that was that. Again, there's a lot of good content on there. It's all free. Some of them even have like music to them, and they move and stuff like that, which is super cool.
The music, just like... That's something I wish they did. Was they added some music to
for Bastard? That would have been cool.
I can't complain, but... 260 chapters, Kyle.
Is it still going?
It's done, but...
Fuck.
260?
I didn't finish it. That's not that bad.
If it's only 92.
You could read 92 in one night. You could read 260 over the course of a week.
Yeah, but I gotta get really into it.
then start reading it and get into it.
All right, let's continue.
Oh my God! See, I do stuff for her, but the moment I
Because
ask,
it's so long.
That's not that long.
That's a commitment.
It's like 1.5 times longer.
What?
No, 2.5 times longer.
Yeah,
2.5 times
bitch.
longer.
20. No, it's almost 3 times.
2.5.
Almost 3 times.
2.5.
Just say 3 times.
All right, let's move on to our news segment. That was that. Again,
She's like, let's agree that I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Just so I don't have to read it because, God forbid, Kyle tries to help me or something like
Ooh,
that.
who's reading this first article? It's not going to be me.
I'll read it. Okay, so
it's like sing song. It's not going to be me.
so we're changing how we do our news again. I'm going to read the full article.
Oh, no. That's going to take forever.
No, I won't.
Paraphrase. The whole point is to paraphrase.
If I was going to paraphrase, I would have done it already.
Don't paraphrase the quotes. Paraphrase everything else.
You read
Go.
someone else's article?
Yeah, but I'm gonna credit who the person is now.
Go.
We're trying to
It's
figure
already
it
been
out.
an hour and 10. Go.
I think what we might do moving forward is I'll just read the article ahead of time. I'll present a synopsis of it, and then I'll talk about it, and then we can talk about it as a group. I think that might be an easier way of doing it.
Takes too long. Let's
Also
go.
for our hosts. All right. I know a decent amount, but let me blah, 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 blah. All right. Epic Games sues alleged Fortnite cheaters.
Got
So,
him.
apparently, what's their name? Epic Games have been receiving compliant issues.
What's the name I just said?
What?
What's the name I just said?
What do you mean?
You said Epic Games, and then you're like, what's the name? Epic Games.
Oh. Apparently, Epic Games is suing two Fortnite players. They had received legal complaints filed in North Carolina's federal court against 2 people, and the documents against them claimed that they were modifying and changing the game's code, which was committing copyright infringement. So Epic goes down, warns them to stop, and they basically guys, no one likes playing with cheaters. Not you, not me, nobody. And they address the cheaters. And they're saying that they're going to be working at a high priority to keep it basically cheat-free as possible. And I wonder in what mode was this addressing? If it was the default Fortnite or the Battle Royale Fortnite?
No, it was Battle Royale. And they banned them 7 times. And then 7 times they went and got new IDs and shit and went back in and started doing it again.
Yeah, so apparently Epic Games said that they've banned already thousands of players and will continue. They'll continue to ban as needed because they don't want them to destroy the integrity of Fortnite as a whole. So they have they're basically suing these people now. They're suing both parties for $150,000 in damages over copyright infringement because of the changing of the code in the game. Because they have to rewrite that code for the hacks which they apply to while they're playing, honestly. Caitlyn, what are you doing? What are you doing, Caitlyn?
It sounds like somebody's snorting cocaine or something. I don't even know what's going on over
All
there.
Caitlyn's doing is snorting. They're throwing food at dogs and watching them try and catch it in slow motion. Okay, thanks, Caitlyn.
Do we have to take her tablet away too?
Yeah, we do. So that's basically what's going on with them. They did recently add their Battle Royale system. Oh my god. It's free, which is interesting, and it goes across all consoles. And I think recently it's passed over 10 million players. So it's doing huge. It's pulling basically the crowd that can't play PC for PUBG. So all the consoles, Fortnite has them with the gonads because they know that it's basically, let's be straight, Battle Royale is just almost a carbon copy of what PUBG is and then moved over onto console. And people are eating that shit up, especially because it's free. So...
Yeah, PUBG's threatening to sue them over it too.
Yeah, they talked about that. One of the issues with that story that PUBG was having problems with was the fact that Epic Games owns Unreal, which is what PUBG is made with. So what they're afraid of is as Fortnite gets bigger, they'll slowly kind of issue out PUBG and Bluehole, which I think they're not called Bluehole anymore. They're called PlayerUnknown something corporation. I don't know, some shit like that. And they'll slowly kind of push them out, and they won't be able to use the engine anymore to make new stuff. So that's their fear. That's why that was one of the reasons that they were doing it. But they've openly stated they know we're not the first ones doing this shit. We just it's kind of like what Blizzard does. They take something and they refine it. And that's why PUBG is so big, because they kind of have the best experience when it comes to this Battle Royale game mode that's on the market currently. And I don't have anything against Fortnite, because, again, PUBG was amassing the same hype that H1Z1 had with their King of the Kill. And now Fortnite's doing the same thing with what PUBG has, except PUBG is just a hell of a lot bigger. So it's interesting to see where it goes, especially as Fortnite moves into its like free to play state. I want to see just how many people actually play the base game of Fortnite instead of just the Battle Royale mode, because I haven't heard too much hype about Fortnite's basic mode, but their Battle Royale mode is getting eaten up because everyone's all about that Battle Royale currently. We'd call this the year of Battle Royale almost, because of all this shit. So, next article. Caitlyn, are you just going to sit there and fucking snicker? You've been watching the same video for
laughing.
last... Yeah.
It's so fucking funny. Oh, wait, I'm going to tag you when it's shown.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, jeez. Check Facebook. Alright, I'll read the next one.
No, well, we have to... I'll read them because I have to break them down. In the future, I'll just break them down.
I don't know anything about those games.
All right, so for our second article, we have Star Wars Battlefront 2 controversial crates addressed by DICE. So, the beta has recently concluded for Battlefront 2. A lot of us have played it. It's fun. We've enjoyed it. It does a good job of capturing that Star Wars experience, same way the first one did. And I think the first one did a good job as well at making you feel like you're in a Star Wars universe. The same thing that when it comes down from the sound design to the graphics, everything about it is good. The first game lacked depth. Now, this game promises more depth. And you could somewhat see it playing the beta. It's just people are kind of getting antsy over the whole microtransaction system. We talked a little bit about it earlier. You also have the fact that, as EA has previously stated, all of the maps and character DLC will be free moving forward. But this game will be using a loot box style system for unlocking upgrades. And that obviously that has a lot of people concerned. So DICE has come out and decided to speak about and kind of address these fears that people have. And in a blog post, DICE outlined some of the changes they're going to be making after the beta to focus on these microtransactions and kind of clarify how they work and what goes on with them. So they want their fans to feel like you don't just pay to get to the top of the leaderboards. So they've basically said that although the crates exist and you can get star cards, which are basically these equipable cards that you put on characters that affect their abilities and even somewhat change abilities entirely. But in loot boxes, you can find star cards, emotes, victory poses, and outfits for each character. And they're to that character. Heroes, assaults, whatever you decide to play, each character has their own cards. There's also a crafting system in the game where you can get this currency, which you can acquire from loot boxes as well, on top of playing the game, in order to create your own star cards or something like that. Although from what I've seen, though, that ratio is kind of high, where it's easier to go buy a crate and get these in the crate instead of playing a game. I was watching a dude talk about it, and it's something like you'd have to play the game for like 4 hours to equate, or it's like 2 to 4 hours to equate to what you would get from one loot box drop. Something along those lines. And so they're working on balancing this system so it feels like players that do decide to play are don't feel like they're getting duped by players that just decide to drop some money into boxes, where you could spend a somewhat decent amount of time playing the game and feel like you're making a decent pace instead of just almost feeling encouraged to drop money on the loot boxes. So basically, DICE is what they try to explain is that with the characters, you could only put cards on them as you level them up by playing the game. So you do still have to put time into the game. You can't just drop a bunch of money into loot boxes and become really strong. You still have to level those characters up to a point where you can actually equip the cards into them. And all that rank is determined by dropping or putting time into the game. So that's kind of what they were trying to say. They're also saying a lot of the higher end stuff is based on gameplay milestones and other things that you complete, like challenges in the game and stuff like that, in order to get these higher tier cards instead of the ones that are medium to low that exist within the loot boxes. So, and on top of that, it either goes from dropping the money to get a chance or spending time to get the actual thing, kind of. So that kind of balances out as well. We'll see what they do come launch, but obviously a lot of people are kind of getting fed up with this loot box system. We're starting to see it again. We saw with Shadow of War, people were getting mad. Now we're seeing it with Battlefront. So I understand, like we said earlier, these developers still got to somewhat make money even after they release the game in order for future content. So that they're trying to find a way to make a compromise where they can still somewhat make money in order to make the future content decent content. So, all right. Oh, man. We have 2 more articles and we'll move on to our main topic. They're long and I'm trying to... In the future, this won't be as bad and we'll have more people be able to read them. And I'll just type out a synopsis in the future. So we're not basically stealing anything from anyone. So, the next thing we have... Overwatch changes Mercy yet again on the PTR. So, we saw the change that they made recently to her, where her ultimate was broken. It made her gun fire twice as fast, had limited ammo. She could fly around.
Here we go.
Borf. So they're trying
Hold on, I'll mute my mic.
Okay. They're working on rebalancing Mercy, so she's not as... So her ult has more of a purpose in a team fight. So basically, the latest batch of changes on the public test realm will affect her ability to fly and how she revives other players. The update that we were talking about came in September, which gave Mercy her Valkyrie ultimate, which provided her those abilities on top of that. Oh, goodness gracious. With this latest update, Mercy will gain a free resurrection charge when she uses Valkyrie, and will be only available for the duration of Valkyrie. If she does not use it by then, it is lost. So she no longer has her 30-second revive timer. Now she gets... Oh, wait a second. I'm reading this wrong. Never mind. She gains a second resurrect charge. That was stupid. And then she'll lose it when Valkyrie runs out. Valkyrie will no longer affect Resurrect's cooldown directly, but this method will preserve some amount of burst resing when needed, while making it more flexible to use, which is what principal designer Jeff Goodman said on the Overwatch forums. For example, in the past, if you want to res 2 targets with Valkyrie, you had to res 1 target, and then ult, causing the cooldown to reset, and then res the other target. With this new change, you can now hit Valkyrie first, fly in quickly, and res 2 targets instantly. According to Goodman, this change will still reduce the overall numbers of Resurrects Mercy can provide, since Valkyrie no longer reduces its cooldown. And with the other change, we had a change to Guardian Angel, which is the ability that allows her to, if she's tethered onto a character, she can jump to them, basically. This change will provide her an unlock boost by pressing the jump key, and this unlocks you from your target and lets you fly past them for a little bit. And sort of use your target like a slingshot, Goodman explained. This somewhat replicates some of the behavior the recent Mercy Zero Air Resistance bug caused, but in a way that is more consistent with less buggy side effects. However, using Resurrect no longer resets the cooldown on Guardian Angel. So, they're still kind of working on balancing her around to make her more of a... where her ult feels more like a team... Something you can drop in a team fight and feel more of not just let me ult and go fly against the enemy team and just shoot my gun until I could see how many people I could kill. She still feels more of that support role. I really like the idea of the slingshot, because before, if you would press it, you kind of go to where the person is currently standing. So if they move, you kind of just stop where they were standing. But with this slingshot that you can kind of jump past them and get behind them if you need to, if you're trying to get away from an enemy, which is really cool. Okay, so... we also have a new Warframe update is out on PC, which is the Plains of Eidolon update, which adds a new open world area, weapons, and more stuff along those lines. This update is only available for PC, They have the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One release later this year. Not this year, just later. I don't know when exactly it comes out. It adds a new area, weapons, and a bunch of other content to this shared world shooter game. The biggest addition with this update is the huge new landscape that they provided, which is the first open world area in Warframe to date, which can hold up to 50 players, can gather and play mining and do mining and fishing minigames, take on quests, battle enemies, and more. The plains will also have a day and night cycle, and once darkness falls, monsters will begin emerging from the waters, including the Eidolon, which the developer Digital Extremes describes as a towering monstrosity lured to consciousness in search of something dangerous and mysterious. Also, in addition to this, we have another Warframe that comes to the game, Gara. This Warframe, quoting Digital Extremes, manipulates glass to fracture and resolve her manipulates glass to fracture the resolve of her enemies. Okay, and comes with 4 new abilities as well as a slate of weapons and customizations. Other new weapons introduced with the update include the Astilla, a gun that shoots slugs which explode on contact, and a powerful glass hammer Volnus. This Plains of Eidolon expansion is free to download to all Warframe players through Steam or the website. So that's cool. I actually, with this update, I downloaded Warframe for my PC. I have to restart entirely, so that kind of sucks. So I'm trying to get to that point where I can even go to the Plains, but right now it's just not out on Xbox or PS4, so I think I might just wait for it to come out to PS4 and then try it there. Hopefully it runs well. One of the issues with Warframe is they try to hold it at 60, but sometimes while you're doing things it can drop, and it's just annoying, because if you're in a game where there's like Twitch-based reactions and you're trying to shoot things to a point, it sucks when frames drop because it makes it harder to aim. And especially with that game, the amount of craziness that happens sometimes with everything going on, it can become quite annoying. So hopefully it's stable at least. The one issue I have is 30 or 60, that debate. If 60 is fine and it's locked, that's good for me. But if you can't lock it at 60, just leave it at 30. Because the moment it starts to drop to like 40 and 50, you start to see those drops, and it really becomes quite jagged and annoying. So I'd rather it just be locked at 30 and stay locked where there's no jaggedness than be at 60 with drops that happen. So, oh man, that's a lot of talking. Hopefully in the future we'll figure out a way to do this better. I'll probably, like I said, I'll just read the articles, present basically what the synopsis is to you guys, and then we can talk about it. But what do you think about this update, Shawn? We got like 50 people in a big open map. There's apparently a giant-ass monster that spawns at night that walks around. Sounds pretty cool. I haven't got a chance to touch it yet.
It's a start. I mean, they just released another free Prime through that Amazon Twitch thing that I've been trying to get it to work, and I can't get it to connect to my account because I keep having errors on the website, which is a side note. But I think the game should have always been that the way that Warframe plays. I think it'd be good for them to have a little bit like what they did with that Skyforge thing, where you've got these overmaps, these overworld maps where you can go and do stuff on, although they just don't do anything with it in Skyforge. If they would do something deep with it in Warframe, I think that would add an element of Warframe that would allow it to compete, because right now it's playing the same 4 different types of levels over and over with slightly different backgrounds depending on what planet you're on. And each planet has its own identity, which is cool, but you still pretty much run into the same exact shit just with different wallpaper, and it's super repetitive. It's fun to play with friends for a little bit here and there, which is why I had no problem putting the money into it that I did, but I couldn't imagine investing anything more into the game, even with an open world thing, unless they really bring more to the table. So I guess I would wait until I was actually able to play it.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been able to touch it yet either, because like I said, I'm literally level 1, don't have any of my Warframes. I didn't think about that, and I don't know what point you have to be to even get to the Plains of Eidolon update. So I might just wait for it to come to PS4, because that's where all my shit is, and then we'll play it together then. But I don't know that so far, from what I can understand, there's no date yet for when it's launching on console. And again, hopefully it's stable. That's my biggest concern moving forward. And the final thing, we already talked about that. Never mind. I brought that up in the previous article. So, moving on to the main topic, we're going to be talking about the future of Square Enix, where it's moving, and kind of the business model that they're adopting moving forward. So I'm going to have Shawn present that, since I was just talking for the past fucking 20 minutes. And, yeah. So what you got for us, Shawn?
20 minutes. Yeah, actually, I just went to grab my notes, and they slid off the couch. Matsuda, who is the CEO of Square Enix, released a article, and I believe it's on our favorite place of places. I think it's on GameSpot.
Oh shit!
Tell our
where's our
adoring fans,
where's our
so that they
revenue?
can read it too. It is on GameSpot. If you search on Google, Square Enix talks about embracing games as a service model. Matsuda released this. I want to say it was on September 21st when this came out, and it was slow going because it's the only place where this bit of information was in there, so it slid below the radar until a guy on YouTube by the name of Final Fantasy Peasant released this big. Yeah, he's awesome, by the way. If you're into Final Fantasy, he's pretty good with his coverage. But he released a video on it, which is what popped my eyes open, and then I went and read the thing. Square Enix is going to be embracing games as a service model. And Matsuda says that's because it's the direction the industry is heading towards. So they're going to be approaching game design with that in mind toward generating reoccurring revenue streams, which means that they're doing a hardcore, obvious cash grab, and they're admitting to it. Everyone else is trending this way, so Square's going to do it too. Gone are the days where Square was inventive trendsetters. Now they're going to be following everyone else. You know, the single-player experience, was it Matsuda said that gone are the days when the single-player experience was primary and the multiplayer was secondary. Lately, multiplayer games have taken the lead, and it's standard to design games for long-term play. So he's basically saying that instead of creating a cohesive, linear, story-based experience that takes you on this vast, deep journey and has all these characters, instead, the idea is just to create something more along the lines of Destiny, or what they've half-assed with Final Fantasy 15, or what you see with games like Overwatch, and I don't remember what the free version of Overwatch is, or any of those MOBA games and things like that. Yeah, where they create a base game and then just continue to support the base game as a continuous play kind of thing. So it lasts for 2 or 3 years. Anybody who's played a Final Fantasy game prior to 15 knows that, I mean, you might sink 40, 70, 100 hours into a game, but when you're done, it's finished. They may release sequels every so often. They might do an expanded universe where they create more content, but each piece of content in that universe adds to the story and is a standalone story by itself. So if you played Final Fantasy VII, but you never played Dirge of Cerberus, you're not missing anything from not having played Dirge of Cerberus. Dirge of Cerberus is its own story. It just builds on the existing universe, gives you more story. So it's good to play it, but it doesn't detract from the experience of Final Fantasy VII from having not played it. Whereas now, that's not going to be the case. If they do release a game, that game, it's not likely, because Square is not good at this whole new business model that they've been tinkering around with. It's been shit on cell phones. It's been shit on the systems. Every time they've tried an expanded universe, it's kind of half worked because a lot of the content isn't available to everyone. Anyway, Square's been watching pro gamers, streamers, and esports, and they've been watching gaming as viewing entertainment. To them, the esports spectatorships make all that meaningful. So as those spectatorships grow, they add to the value of the game as a form of media. This conversion of gaming into a form of watchable media has Square's focus, and they intend to pursue it as an actual business model going forward. So they're converting over 30-plus year franchise of a single-player, fantasy experience into multiplayer crapware. Gone is what has always been a single-player, linear-based experience. It's toast. What games as a service model means, for anybody that doesn't know, is it's a continuous game with long-term DLC content and releases with expansions a little bit like what they tried to do with Final Fantasy 15, only a lot of that was fixing a faulted product. But that still gives them the ability now to, okay, well, we don't have this part worked out or that part worked out yet. We'll just release this part, and then we'll include that as DLC. It's fucking lazy, and it's callow. And I'm curious, because it can have a positive side effect. If we go strictly best case scenario, they could release an epic Final Fantasy XXX, whatever the fuck it happens to be. It's a really great standalone, thorough, 100% everything's included, and then they could release additional expansions and new stories or give you side stories that let you experience the characters more or revisit the world, but the game itself stops here, you know, and here's a new story in that universe, or here's a new element in that universe, but that's assuming a best case scenario.
Yeah, and sadly, we've already got a taste of what they've somewhat trying to bring into light with 15, and it's not looking good. With a lot of the DLC being either little busy things that push you around or stuff that you can tell, like we said earlier, was purposely removed from the base game to be included later. Now again, Square Enix, although I'm not trying to justify anything, but this isn't anything new. I'm not saying it's right, but at this point, it just, again, it seems lazy. It's like we need some way to make more money, but we're not gonna develop more story. We're not gonna develop more areas. We're gonna take you into something that should have existed prior in the base, and then resell it to you. And it's just like Shawn said, it feels lazy. It feels just not like something that Square has been before with their prior games, where it, like you said, it's just a complete experience that you go through, and when you're done, you're done. And again, like you said, I would love to see the best case scenario, because I love Square. I love the stories that they make. I love the characters that they create, and just the experiences that they provide to us. They've been some things that will stick with us for the rest of our lives, but it isn't looking good moving forward. And I want them to succeed, but I wanted them to succeed for good reasons, seeing that they're putting in effort into this plan, this model. This model can work. It can be good, but we haven't seen it work in its to its full fruition yet in gaming. We saw Destiny try it. It didn't work too well. We see Destiny still trying it, and it's better, but it's not working too well. 15 didn't do a good job at it. So they need to put their full force forward, man, that was hard to say, into getting this model working in a way that Square can be proud of. But again, it's just we haven't seen it yet. So we just have to sit on our asses currently and hope that they'll find a way to enforce this properly. Where, well, like you said,
I just don't trust them anymore, man. I mean, if you look at Capcom, Konami, like all these high legacy companies that for, 2, almost 3 generations were releasing quality content on the regular. They have this huge back catalog of legacy titles, ones that are remembered and treasured by multiple video game generations because they put quality over quantity. The goal was to create something that players could enjoy and lose themselves into. It didn't matter if it was Castlevania or Mega Man or Silent Hill, which that one had a rocky path, but there was still a lot of solid Silent Hill titles up until the last 4 or 5. And then you have Resident Evil. They're kind of trying to bring that one back after they tried something different. And then you have Square, and the video game industry in Japan, unfortunately, is choking, and it's shifting over to mobile because people don't get to spend all that much time at home anymore. So the home-based consoles are becoming a thing of the past. Now, they still make money, and it's still a profitable market, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. So I understand they're having to change, and Square is making the relatively intelligent choice of going, all right, well, before we've been creating content for Japanese gamers, that other gamers can also enjoy. And now they're changing how they make content and what they make to please more of a Western audience than to please the audience they've always targeted. And that's okay too, to a degree. But here's the thing. The Western audience has always liked what they made originally anyway. That's what we want. We want deeply complex stories. We want character building. We want character relationships. We want a romance here and there, a rivalry here and there. We want drama. We want melodrama. We want fantasy and technology. And we want an epic world-saving experience. And we want to be part of the story. We want a good book that we can play through. And they've always delivered that. And even if you were more of a fan of one book than another, you can't deny that the quality was almost always there. And, you know, when you had some of their spinoffs like Dirge of Cerberus or that Crystal Chronicles spinoff, the Chrysalis, whatever, the shooting one, the other had like tactics. God damn it! Hold on.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was released on Vita, and then they did an HD re-release on PlayStation 4, and it was, I can't for the life of me remember the name of it, but it was a battle school kind of situation.
Oh, okay.
Even that one, it had the quality there. Even if you didn't dig on the game, it's not like it was a crappy game. It just wasn't your kind of game. And now they're adopting a heavily Western way of doing games. They don't have to do that. We never asked them. Their customer base never asked them to do what they're doing. We didn't. The people that don't play Final Fantasy are the ones that have been clamoring for open world this and multiplayer that. They're trying to pull in a different customer base than they've had before. So now they're going to be taking a game and milking it for 2 and 3 years, which is not the right mindset. The mindset would be to make the best possible game you can that is a complete and cohesive story, start to finish. And then if you can add more onto it if you like, that's fine. Do your thing. Because if I like the base game and then you decide to do more derpy shit like what you've been doing with 15, I don't have to buy it. I can just replay the base game again if I ever want to go back to it. I don't have to buy like fishing tournaments and fucking Assassin's festivals. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I don't need that garbage with my game. I want to play a Final Fantasy game. I don't want to play an Ubisoft game. I don't want to... Your partnerships don't mean shit to me. I want a cohesive, coherent, in-depth, multi-hour epic. And that's what they've always delivered. And they've always set the trends. Fuck, when 7 came out, for like 7, 8, 9, 10... every other RPG maker out there, outside of like Bethesda and some of the American ones, were all trying to emulate Final Fantasy. You had Legend of Dragoon come out that was a Final Fantasy clone that ended up being able to stand on its own right. You had a ton of games that took influence from Final Fantasy. It set the pattern for a genre for like 20 years, 7 did. And before that, Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy II set the genre for the 8-bit and 16-bit consoles. They were the ones that made the benchmark. And now instead of continuing to set the standard for others to follow, they're following other people's standards. So they're going to be focusing on multiplayer games. They're going to be focusing on games that you can watch instead of play, that are more because they see games now as a visual media that you can watch on YouTube and on content channels, and they like that. And they want to make games that they can support for multiple years. They can just drag them on, and that really goes against everything that they're for the last 30 years that they've done. And I think that's fucking insane. And if this goes along the way it has been, like, they're not going to be the Square Enix that the world has grown up with and loved. They're just going to be another garbage developer putting stuff out there that you can flip a coin and see if it's going to be worth buying or not. And that's what really breaks my heart. And the entire internet has gone fucking bananas over this. And it's not just nerd rage. Like, this is like a Disney or, Don Bluth. It's like an American Tale. I mean, Final Fantasy is a franchise that is more than a video game to the people that have grown up with it. These are stories that are treasured by us, characters that are treasured by us, huge legacies of things that we've grown up with that we remember fondly, like a cartoon you loved when you were a kid, or any kind of intellectual property you loved, and they've just kind of shat all over it with their current business model. And I think if you're trying to gain some of that success that you've had in the past, the idea isn't to completely abandon what made you successful. The idea is to take what made you successful and then bring it into the next generation. And I don't think that turn-based, or even if it's not turn-based, but if it's still extremely story-focused content, I don't think that abandoning that or making self-contained universes, it just seems like they're selling out big time. And I don't think that abandoning those things that made you special is going to carry on your legacy. I think, if anything, even if you are successful, you're losing everyone that helped get you there.
Yeah, I feel you 100%. And we've talked about this before, but if you look at it's when like you said, you need to take what you've acquired, the things that you've built up, the legacy that you've created, and you're adapting it. You're evolving it into something else. You're not disposing of anything. You're changing it to fit into a broader audience. And that's not what they did with 15. They dropped a lot of what existed and what made Final Fantasy in order to appeal to a new generation, where we need to adapt to this new generation of gamers. And I'd say a good example, again, we've talked about this prior, but a good example would be what Persona did and Atlas did. They took the game. The game is still at its base Persona. Now, it might be a little bit easier than prior Personas, or a little bit more laid back than prior Personas, but at its base, it still is mechanically Persona. But the way that they appealed to this new generation, they adapted their game through their the way the game looks, the way the game feels, the what was I going to say? The style that the game exudes. The game just looks cool to play. And then on top of that, I think the way Persona plays, it feels a bit more. Although I'd say to you, if you have a way of playing Persona 5 without dropping money, if you're kind of worried about if you like it or not, try and play it, because a lot of people don't like it because it's turn-based. But I've had a lot of people that I've talked to that have played the game that did not like turn-based combat that love it, because Persona's turn-based combat flows a different way than normal turn-based combat does. When you're working with like elemental weaknesses and stuff like that and getting knockdowns, it kind of flows a bit differently than a traditional turn-based combat game. But Atlas took what they had and they're refining it. Every release is they're refining it and adapting it into something that everyone can enjoy in one way or another. And Persona at its core is different than Final Fantasy. Yes, it does have different aspects of it that make it where it can appeal to different people, such as its life sim aspect and the other things that exist in Persona. But Square, they're taking this the wrong way. A lot of what I just think they don't understand that they have. Well, I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say here.
Dude, they see dollar signs and they're lunging for it. And it's sad. You keep what makes you special, and then no Final Fantasy game is the same. The battle systems are always different. The techniques and mechanics are always different, but they always kept this 60% chunk, the spirit of the game, the way the game feels, the same. Doesn't matter if I'm playing 7, 8, or 9, you can tell I'm playing a Final Fantasy game. And yes, I love turn-based combat. But even then, it wasn't traditional turn-based combat. It wasn't attack and then wait. You can't put the controller down. People have a certain recharge meter, and when it recharges, then they can pull their next action. So you're sitting there planning out lines ahead of what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, because the enemy has a recharge meter too, and they can continue attacking. You put the controller down, leave the room, come back, you're dead, because they've been able to take 4 or 5 attacks while you're just sitting there. Unless you can turn it off, but I never played with it off because then it's easy. I don't want easy. I want fast-paced, fluid combat in a turn-based environment, and that happens with every Final Fantasy from Final Fantasy, was it 7 or 8? On had an active counter ever since Parasite Eve came out. So it had this active counter. So I believe it was 7 that started it, and then they just kind of polished it between 8 and 10. But the way the games played, the mechanics, the worlds, everything was vastly different. The way things unlocked, how the world expanded was vastly different. You know, it was never the same game. And as much as I wanted to hate, what was it, 13? No, 12? Well, the one with Vaughn, and the one that wasn't a high fantasy, it was more like a political thing between two countries.
That was 10, wasn't it?
As much as I wanted... No, it wasn't 10. That was like, I think it was 12. Because 11 was online, so it's Final Fantasy 12. As much as I wanted to hate 12, the characters were so good in 12, and the story was decent enough, and you had enough, characters and side stories and things like that, that it built this cohesive kind of faux MMO world, and it felt fun to play. And after a while, I had gotten used to the battle system. It wasn't the turn-based thing anymore. Again, it was more of a faux MMO thing. Where you could your other characters, as you played, you gained gambits, which were like AI steps, and you could program the other characters and how you wanted them to behave. And on the fly, you could pause combat, go in, change it. You could flip to another character and manually control them. It was deep enough that eventually I forgave it from changing, and then they kind of went back to turn-based with 13, but then they kind of did a different thing with it. It was almost like it played for itself, and that wasn't quite as good either. And I wasn't really fond of the system of 13, but I liked the characters. Well, mostly I just liked a few of the characters. 13 was a little bit more wishy-washy and wonky for me. I wasn't really terribly fond of that one. But I still like it more than anything else they've come out with after.
When 13 came out, we had GameFly. Like, we were using GameFly, and I rented it on GameFly, and I didn't realize, like, what I was getting into. I think this is my first exposure to Final Fantasy a while ago. And, what was I going to say? So, yeah, it came in the mail, and the first thing I recognized is, holy shit, there's 2 discs. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I start playing, and I got to the point where I was tired of fighting everything. So what I did was I sprinted past everything. And I finally got to the boss, and the boss just, like, beat my ass down into the ground. And I'm like, why is it so hard? And then I went back, and I started farming. I got, like, 10 minutes into it, and I'm like, man, this is boring. And I fucking stopped playing, and I sent the game back to GameFly. And I think the next game I got was, like, Mirror's Edge, or some shit like that.
That was a good game.
Mirror's Edge was good, yeah. But
it's disappointing, man. Like 13 might have been a misstep, but at the very least they gave you a whole game, and then they gave you 3 separate chapters that were complete games. No, say what you will about the story or the characters, but everyone was fleshed out. It was a full story. It may have been their most far-fetched and dumb story that they have written thus far, but it was still a full story. I mean, at its heart, 15, if they had included everything, if a lot of it wasn't read between the lines and context clues and shit that you are so easy to miss, if they had included the actual story, 15 would have had a much better story than the piece of shit that it did have. Because it has a really good story behind it. You just don't get that story. You get like 10% of it, and that's sad. I'm not fond of the battle system. I think the world's beautiful. I think they could have taken that same game and put more of the old Final Fantasy spin into it, and it would have still been something new. But they didn't do that. They were trying to emulate Dragon Age and shit like that, and it just wasn't. It's not a good way to go. It doesn't fit the Square formula. And the question to our listeners I don't know, man. Do you think that they can pull this off? I don't think they can. I think it's a soulless cash grab, and I don't think they're the Square we used to love. And the only thing that I think Square's got going for them now is their remakes of old games and their HD re-releases and shit. I still have to get the money together to buy Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah. No, I feel you 100%. And again, when it comes down to it, it really is, we've discussed it before, but they're all companies and we're working in a business venture. So, of course, they're trying to make money. And it's just, when you go for these grabs, you kind of got to make it look like you actually care about people. And when your audience starts to see that it's not the case, You're creating an issue in your industry. So with us, just two people that enjoy games, especially Shawn, which is just a fan of the series, if he's seeing this as something along these lines of, hey, we see you as dollar signs, you're kind of failing as a company there. And it's going to take some serious efforts into regaining trust of their fan base, because it's just been shit on a couple times. And now we got the remake of 7 around the bend, which is looking more like an action like game than a actual RPG. So depending on what they do with that, they could continue to lose trust in their fan base. So it really is, it's a tough situation for Square, especially because they're moving into a market where they've just kind of the whole time they've been developing for Japan, and then the States just loved them. And I don't know what is making them decide that, oh, we need to change up our formula because obviously we weren't popular before or something like that. I don't know who is bringing them this information.
Now. They've decided to tap a new market. They see that people are watching games now. They're watching games as much as they're playing them. It's a streamer-friendly environment, and they've seen how Overwatch is done. They've seen how that big, what's that MOBA that everybody plays?
League of Legends?
Yeah, they've seen how League of Legends does. Well. They've seen how, they've seen all these tournaments. They're like, hey, we could get a piece of that action.
Yeah,
look at all
imagine
the
a Final Fantasy tournament.
They already have a MOBA, man. It's the new Dissidia. It's not a fighting game this time. It's a fucking MOBA.
The new Dissidia is a MOBA?
Is a MOBA. Yes, it's a fucking MOBA. It's a 4-team MOBA. It's you pick 4 characters. Now, don't get me wrong. What they have done with it, I like, but I still don't like MOBAs. The only one I liked was Battleborn, and that didn't really feel like a MOBA when I was playing it.
Wasn't the last MOBA... Or what? Last MOBA wasn't the last Dissidia just like a fighting game, like kind of like Budokai?
It was a fighting game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't implemented well. I want it anyway, but it wasn't implemented well. The controls weren't good. It was hard to pull off.
It was on the PSP, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's probably why. The PSP was not the best at
no
as a controller.
I don't have a problem with them going, hey, let's make an online. Man, after 7 or 8, I don't remember which, they started expanding out. Because for the longest time, all Square did was make Final Fantasy-based games. And then they started expanding out and bringing out other properties that they had access to, like the Saga series and Parasite Eve and Einhander. And then they had, was it Urballs or Urba? I don't remember what it's called, but it's a fighting game that had Tifa and Cloud in it. That was in arcades, and they brought that home, and then they made Tabal #1, which is okay. You know, that was pretty interesting. And they started expanding and trying out other games and other game styles, and with mixed results, but mostly it still had that Square layer of polish. And before, when they made games, no matter what it was, but especially Final Fantasy, it was always made with the player in mind. Yes, they were a company, and yes, they were there to make a profit, but the idea was give the player the best experience possible. That's not the goal anymore. They point blank have said in that article, if you read it, they're not focused on players anymore. They're not focused on a single player's experience. They're focused on what the game looks like as a visual media, as something you watch. They're focused on multiplayer, and they're focused on dragging a game out as a continuous money-making property for multiple years. And I'm not talking about like a franchise. I'm not talking about like, okay, we're going to release part 10, then Final Fantasy 11, then Final Fantasy 12. That's not what they're doing. They're releasing Final Fantasy 10 and then continuous content shit they sell to you for the next 2-3 years. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's totally, it's so much clearer. It's not about the player anymore. They don't care. Now it's just, okay, what business models are working? We're going to use those. Fuck what we know. Fuck what's us. Fuck our legacy. None of that matters anymore. Now let's just do what seems to be working for everyone else. And when you stop setting trends and start following them, I lose interest.
Damn.
Shawn got him.
All right.
What about you, Caitlyn? Considering I've like 60% dominated this, and Kyle's taken the other share. How do you feel about the idea, even if you're not a particularly noteworthy Square fan?
I think it's fucked up.
Caitlyn, you understand what's going on?
Kind
Somewhat?
of, yeah.
Okay. Just kind of sitting around. Okay, so say here, let me give you some kind of equal. Okay, how about this? So say, what's your favorite game that you've ever played?
Fallout.
All right, so say Bethesda decides to take the Fallout franchise, right? And the next Fallout we have, Fallout 5, comes out, right?
And it's a MOBA.
What does MOBA mean?
Multiplayer Online Battle Arena.
No.
It's like League of Legends?
No.
It's like that. But that's not what we're talking about. But say Bethesda decides that, hey, we want to produce for the simulation community. So the next Fallout game is they completely abandon the RPG shooting and stuff like that, and you farm crops in a Fallout environment. How would you feel about that? And then they come out with a statement saying that this is what people want. So from now on, every Fallout game is going to be a sim game where you like farm crops or
like Farmville?
Yeah, something like that, but Fallout flavored. How would you feel about something like that? Now, this is obviously an extreme. This isn't exactly what's going on with Square, but it's
close enough.
It's an idea. How would you feel about that?
I'd start a petition.
A petition?
And I'd take it to the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court?
And I'd sue them.
How that work?
That's
how that works?
I would start a case action lawsuit.
Okay, case action lawsuit.
And then I'd sue them for all they're worth. For changing the formula. That's what I would do.
Comes like, I'll get it done. So
as much as they say, I mean, look at Mario, man. Everybody complained for a long, long time. They wanted Mario to do something different.
Oh, we could see his nipples.
Yeah, well, then they released Mario 64. And Mario 64 was a knockout, right? If you look at how many copies Mario 64 sold, as opposed to Mario and Mario 3, Mario 3 still wins. If you look at any of the 3D exploration Marios, if you look at the good ones like 64, like the Mario Sunshine, right? They sold less overall than the side scrollers. Then they release Super Mario Wii, and that game outsells every 3D Mario that's come since Mario 3. So the community wants them to do something different with Mario, but every time they do, they suffer for it. They don't make the sales. So if the gaming community doesn't support what's out there, if they don't support when somebody does quality work that maybe doesn't necessarily emulate exactly what's gone before, then they're just going to go back to doing whatever the market is saying is will make money. Yeah. And when Final Fantasy has come out when they've done what they did before, when they did the best possible story-based, player-based game, they haven't been selling as much copies. With all that they put into 13 didn't do what they'd hoped it would do. And 10-2 didn't do what they had hoped it would do. They did what works, but then they tried doing something a little bit different with it, but still keeping the thing alive. I don't know, man. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I don't know if Square feels like they've got a choice here. I think that they're not making the money they need to. They're suffering because of it, and they feel like they have to do something. Yeah, so instead of doing what they should be doing or doing what they should be doing right, they're just taking the easy way out.
Yeah, the same thing. Well, again, we're in a capitalist economy. So when you look at a business and they implement something new, we've talked about this before, but if they see it do well and they make profit, the company will continue to do that. If Lay's puts out a type of chip that's churro flavored and everyone's like, holy shit, let me put this in my mouth, and they sell millions of these bags of churro flavored Lay's, which I don't think would work that well. Actually, that might be pretty tasty.
Continue.
Okay, I'm sorry. My mind's going on a
Food
tangent.
tangent.
I'm excited now. Give that to us, Lay's, churro flavored Lay's. But so they do that. It makes a bunch of money. They produce more of it. It keeps making money, right? They do what they see works. That's the same thing. We've seen this huge onslaught of loot box systems. They've seen it work prior. If you buy into it, the company understands, hey, people are dumb enough to do this. Let's keep doing it until we get enough outrage to stop doing it. And again, we all talk this shit. The thing about the video game market that we've talked about before is that it's interesting because it's divided. You have people that are diehard, play games all the time, really enjoy them, all about it. And then you have people that buy maybe 2 to 3 games a year, and they put their money into those games. That's why we see that. And with this adaptation of these loot box systems, the people that only buy 2 to 3 games a year, they're down to spend a little bit more money because they don't have as much time to play this game, so they can make up progress. Where us, or again, it sounds dumb, but the people that play more games, they're buying more games, so they're not willing to deal with the bullshit of having to spend money on games that you feel should be a $60 experience that would be complete, and you shouldn't have to spend more money to get stuff that other people have access to just because they did spend more money. So this has arisen in our market because it's done well. We've seen it done well, and I'm not going to say I'm free of guilt because I've bought Overwatch loot boxes, or I've bought stupid loot boxes before. Actually, I don't know if I've ever bought a stupid loot box. I don't know. I bought Overwatch loot boxes, whatever. In a way, even though I'm okay with the Overwatch loot boxes, they still kind of made it as big as it was, and other companies are like, monkey see, monkey do. Hey, we might be able to make some money. Let's kind of take this and make it our own somewhat. And people, if these companies you give an inch, they'll take a mile. So the moment we start to see something that seems to be stupid or unfair, we said this before, but you vote with your wallet. You find something. And it sucks because I like Monolith, who worked on the Lord of the Rings games. I like them, but Warner Brothers is like, hey, we need loot boxes in this game. Figure out a way to make it work. And that puts them in a rough spot. And I know you can go into the game and just not spend any money on the boxes, but if they have a section in the game that presents an unbearable grind in order to get the true ending, where it's almost encouraging loot boxes, I'm not about that. I'm not going to put money into a game like that. And again, it puts the developer in a tough spot. They have to listen to what their publisher says because they're getting their money from them. But Square...
As an audience, we've got to stick to our guns, dude. We have to. There's so many times when we don't have to buy a loot box, but we give in, and we're like, well, I really want this, and I guess I'll just do it. But every time we do something we don't want to do to get more for the game or whatnot, we're just encouraging them to continue doing it. And it's gotten to the point now where I am intentionally not buying games that I want to play because I don't want to support a business model that goes counter to gaming. Like we were talking about that before, like how gaming's kind of losing its soul. It's losing its heart, so to speak. The culture's changing and the businesses are changing because they think that's what we want. And I think there's two sides to it. There's the people who love gaming, and then there's the commercial side. You've got your, and I apologize, I think I just interrupted the shit out of you, but you've got your Overwatch community that loves playing Overwatch, and they're diehard gamers, but they're not gamers in the traditional sense. You know, they get into the competitive side of things. They enjoy playing that type of game, and they put all this money into the stuff. But the people who don't do that, or who only do that casually, the ones that love the single player experience, the games that tell stories that they get to play through, we're losing that. We're losing it piece by piece. And whereas there's still a good chunk of games coming out with single player experiences, they're leaning heavier and heavier towards the loot boxes and the microtransactions and going farther and farther away from what made gaming special in the first place. And if we're going to sit there and say, I don't want you doing this anymore, we have to go without playing games that we want to play that are doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are willing to do it. They're just afraid. Like, I don't want to miss the experience. And I don't want to miss the experience either, man. But you know what? I'm willing to do it now. I'm just tired of fucking giving them my money and then not getting it back, not getting my money's worth out of the game.
Yeah, you get a lot of people fall prey to like that release hype. You hear other people talking about it, you want to be talking about it with them, so you fall prey to putting money into a game you might not otherwise want to support. But again, like Shawn said, you gotta kind of just stick it out. Worst comes to worst, I've had games that I wanted to play, but I didn't care enough, or I was trying to avoid putting money into them because I didn't agree with something, so I just watched the game. I'd watch someone else play it, I wouldn't drop the 60. And I'd rather support someone that I enjoy, a personality, play the game instead of giving the company that developed the game that money directly. So there's other ways to do it. And again, when it comes to games, there are so many fucking games out there, guys. Missing one will not kill you. The thing that's the talk of the town for this week might not be the same next week. Not every game is going to leave a lasting impression on the community. So try to, and a lot of people, they take the time, they sit there, they wait for a game to release, and they wait for reviews, and that's awesome, because even when it comes down to pre-orders, you're putting a lot of faith into this company to give you a product that you're going to enjoy based on either prior experiences with the company or something that dropped that you enjoyed. So it's just, again, you just got to put your foot down. It's crazy, but there's so much stuff. There's so much stimulants. There's so many stimulants when it comes to this form of entertainment. The amount of, like, especially like this fall, we have like 3 fucking games releasing on one day: Wolfenstein, Assassin's Creed, and Mario. I'm only picking up Mario, and eventually I'll probably get Wolfenstein because I enjoy Wolfenstein. But I didn't go shit about Assassin's Creed. But we got to just be more, not realistic, but smarter with the decisions when it comes to picking up these games, and just do a little bit of research. Look into something. Don't feel free to pre-order something just because it looks nice. And again, I'm the pot calling the kettle black because I've done all of these things, but I'm trying to remedy it because I spend way too much money on video games. And it's Caitlyn. So we just wanted to present that to you guys. Tell us how you feel in the comments below. If you have pre-ordered something, how you feel about pre-orders, how you feel about season passes, all this stuff, the way that this market's changing or how it's been changing, what you guys feel about that. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So that's pretty much our show for today. So can I get an amen? No. Can I get a what am I gonna say? Outros from the hosts. What you got, Caitlyn?
Have a great week.
Oh snap!
Getting sassy.
Sassy.
Have a good fucking week. How about that?
Whoa! Don't insult our audience. What about you, Shawn?
Hugs and kisses and all your pink parts.
All right, and now it's time for my grand outro. And
This better be good.
it's not, but hey, I want to stick with it.
The build up.
And before we go, I leave you with a thought. If you lift a kangaroo's tail off the ground, it cannot hop.